We are kicking off today with Raw, which saw a hard-hitting rivalry reignited as Sheamus took on Gunther in the King of the Ring tournament, and both men pummeled the other from bell to bell. The pair were left with red welts as a result of the unforgiving strikes and interference from Ludwig Kaiser on Sheamus' knee, with the Celtic Warrior on the defense. This match had a PLE feel to it, which is hardly surprising given the war the two had at Clash at the Castle 2022 in Cardiff, Wales, that saw Gunther emerge on top. The referee would eventually send Kaiser away to a huge pop, but only after Kaiser had damaged Sheamus, giving Gunther a giant target for his attack. Daring General punished the joint, and despite Sheamus' best efforts, he was forced to submit to the half-Boston Crab in another classic, physical encounter between the two. The added story of Kaiser's involvement helped set up the finish and protect Sheamus, raising the question as to whether the Irishman would have won had he not had his knee damaged. Gunther winning made sense, as he has been the favorite to win the whole tournament from the moment he announced his eligibility. Nothing about this changed that perception. If the next round goes a certain way, then Gunther could end up facing Ilja Dragunov, and fans will remember their wars, which saw Dragunov end Gunther's 70-day reign as UK champion. This match was nothing short of a classic, and while Gunther is being considered a favorite, he'll have quite the tough journey to the throne in Saudi Arabia. The Gunther vs. Sheamus match was the rightful main event of Raw in Hartford, and the crowd clearly appreciated the in-vain efforts of the Celtic Warrior. After Raw went off the air, the crowd gave Sheamus a standing ovation, a scene similar to what took place in Principality Stadium in Cardiff 2 years ago. Perhaps one day Sheamus will finally beat Gunther, but this week's Raw was not that day. And what did you think of the match? Let us know down in the comments. World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest and the Judgment Day kicked off Raw, and were in a great mood given Priest's title retention over Jey Uso at Backlash France. Rather than chastise his allies for getting involved against his wishes, Priest apologized for expressing his frustration with JD McDonough and Finn Balor and Leon. Priest's apology felt forced, however, like a formality rather than being genuinely remorseful for what had transpired, a plot point WWE can explore down the line. As for Balor, he was delighted that he'd be receiving a bye in the King of the Ring tournament due to an injury suffered by Drew McIntyre before Adam Pearce spoiled the night for the Irish star. Pearce revealed that Balor would face the same man he cost in Lyon, that being Jey Uso, and Finn worked over Uso's midsection during the match, keeping him grounded throughout. When Jey did fight back, it happened alongside a late match appearance by McIntyre, who was enraged by being pulled from the tournament and wanted to cost Jey the match. Instead, Uso stayed focused and got the win over Balor with a spear to advance, much to the dismay of the Scottish Warrior. This was an eventful opening half hour, with Judgment Day developments, an appearance by Jey, and the Uso-McIntyre feud being renewed, as every minute counted in these 30 minutes. After Jey's victory over Finn Balor, CM Punk made an appearance just as Drew McIntyre had stormed out of the building due to the fact that he wasn't cleared to wrestle. Punk cut a promo and called out McIntyre, but it was too late for Drew to come back, and Punk also made several references during his promo. Punk threatened to hold Raw hostage if McIntyre didn't turn around and come back and confront him, and joked that he'd ask the fans, "What do you want to talk about?" This is of course a line Cody Rhodes has used, and Punk would also suggest that Drew was a coward for not returning to the building. Punk also used some baseball terminology to put himself over, describing himself as a five-tool player, which is a term for a player who excels at all five of the major tools of baseball. Punk has certainly been excelling despite his injury, as he continues to captivate on the mic, commentated at WrestleMania, has been helping in NXT, and has been on kickoff shows. McIntyre, according to Punk at least, isn't a five-tool player, but just a tool, and the Best in the World also brought up the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. The issues between the two have seen both make unverified allegations against the other, with Drake saying he's disgusted by the allegation he's engaged in sex with a minor. Punk noted that McIntyre hates the way he looks, the way he walks, and the way he talks during tonight's edition of the Red Brand, borrowing lyrics from Lamar's track Euphoria that was released last month. Returning his focus to the world of wrestling, Punk approached the camera and said he could be hiding in a bowl of haggis in Glasgow if that's what it takes for him to get his hands on McIntyre. Glasgow will play host to Clash at the Castle on June 15th, and with McIntyre expected to be on the card, it seems Punk will be waiting for the Scottish Warrior in his home country. Perhaps the biggest reference made by Punk, though, related to AEW All In 2023, which infamously saw Punk and Jack Perry get into a backstage confrontation. During his promo, Punk said Drew is a choke artist, while he's a choke artist of a different kind, and made a motion with his arm. Punk used a guillotine choke in the brawl with Perry that AEW recently aired, and to hammer the point home, Pat McAfee chimed in and said guillotine on commentary. This was quite the promo by Punk, and the tease he'll be at Clash of the Castle should have fans excited as the Punk-McIntyre program continues to be a highlight of WWE TV. WWE continued its QR code mystery on this week's episode of Raw, as another code appeared during a segment that saw Drew McIntyre arguing with Adam Pearce. Upon being scanned, the code took fans to a WWE page titled Diversive, which means expressing contempt or ridicule, as well as a video in an extremely creepy setting. The video contains the message, "Soon you will understand that all we ever wanted was a chance," which furthers the theory that not just one person, but several will be revealed. That wasn't all though, as when scrolling to the bottom of the page, there is a logo of a bird, and clicking it takes fans to a PDF document entitled Valkyria. This word translates to timeless or opportunity, and the PDF included a code which upon being cracked states, "You know nothing, hell is only a word, reality is much, much worse." It is all but confirmed that this is all building to the return of Uncle Howdy, who is set to return with a faction including Eric Rowan, Nikki Cross, Joe Gacy, and others. This will seemingly be an homage to the original Wyatt family, which consisted of Rowan, Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, and Braun Strowman, and faced off with formidable opponents. The Shield, The Rock, and John Cena all fell victim to the Wyatt family at one point or another, but the group originally had another member planned. Speaking to Steve Fall of Wrestling News, ex-superstar Victor of the Ascension revealed he was actually part of the Wyatts at first, namely in the initial Titantron videos for the faction. He also added that there were other names, someone named Bronson, Jodie Christopherson, and Audrey Marie, and Marie herself has said in the past she was planned as a member of the group. Obviously, not all plans made it to TV, but the Wyatt family will forever be remembered as one of the most important factions of its era, and nothing will change that. Whether the Uncle Howdy-led group can reach that same level, time will tell, but it seems we're getting ever closer to a reveal happening on WWE TV. Now, few WWE personnel have been tenured with the promotion longer than Jerry the King Lawler, but recently, it was confirmed that Lawler's tenure has come to an end. PW Insider reports the WWE quietly opted not to extend Lawler's broadcast contract, bringing an end to a relationship that began back in December 1992 with his primetime wrestling debut. It's confirmed that his contract with WWE expired at the beginning of 2024, but rumors of his exit had only started circulating in recent weeks, thanks in part to Jerry's health issues. Lawler has kept a low profile since suffering a stroke in February 2023, and fans will remember a similar event happening during an episode of Monday Night Raw in September 2012. Nevertheless, Lawler's departure has caught many off guard, especially given his lengthy tenure over the years, which led to some believing he'd remain in some form or another. As one WWE source said though, this new era is indeed a new one, as such long-standing relationships seem less assured. They said, "The old company is dead. People can say they hate Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn all they want, and they'd be right to do so, but certain people would have been taken care of. Lawler would have been one, but this isn't the old WWE. Howard Finkel, God bless him, wouldn't have had a job for life here anymore either." Despite Lawler's exit, fans can take solace that Jerry remains in good health, as he recently said he was doing great and was making strides in his recovery. Fans will be able to remember Lawler's contributions over 3 decades and his role in some of WWE's most memorable moments, whether it be in the ring or behind the commentary table. As Lawler embarks on the next chapter post-WWE, fans eagerly await to see what's in store for the legendary wrestler from Memphis, and what are your thoughts on his exit? Sound off below. Lawler isn't the only name gone from WWE, as the company has also let go of Gable Steveson less than 3 years after his high-profile signing in 2021. Steveson, WWE's second ever Olympic gold medalist, started off strong in the company as he was drafted to Raw in 2021, becoming the first superstar to be drafted prior to having a match. Things took a turn though when it was reported that Gable wasn't showing the level of progress WWE was looking for, and his eventual debut match with Baron Corbin was not well received. Gable had been showing progress at NXT live events and in main roster dark matches, but it all came too late, as the Olympian's days with WWE are officially over. Prior to Raw, WWE advertised a total of 8 tournament matches across both the King and Queen of the Ring, but some matches didn't make it to air. It's since been confirmed that the match between Rey Mysterio and Kofi Kingston will take place in an upcoming WWE live event, as will the match between Shayna Baszler and Zelina Vega. WWE have not publicly given a reason, though time constraints may be to blame, and these matches should add a layer of excitement to this weekend's live events. As we mentioned, Drew McIntyre was unable to compete in King of the Ring due to an injury, and he's not the only star pulled from WWE's royal plans. On Raw, Dakota Kai revealed that Asuka was also on the sidelines following Backlash, and that she would be replacing the Empress in the Queen of the Ring tournament. It was therefore Kai that faced Raw newcomer Lyra Valkyria on Raw in the former NXT Women's Champion's first match on the Red brand since being called up in the draft. As for Asuka, she wrestled at Backlash where she and Kairi Sane lost the women's tag titles to Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair after she was hit with a KOD onto her own partner. There are currently no details on what injury Asuka is struggling with, but she isn't expected to play a part in the Queen of the Ring tournament that will conclude later this month. WWE Women's World Champion Becky Lynch joined Michael Cole in the ring for a sit-down interview that saw the man put over some of the new women on the Red brand. Lynch put over Alba Fire as the longest reigning women's champion in modern WWE history, and deemed Lyra Valkyria the most gifted women's wrestler she's ever been in the ring with. The man would have carried on if not for the interruption by Liv Morgan, and a tense back and forth saw Morgan make clear she wanted to take all that was good from Rhea Ripley. Though Ripley is no longer the champion, Liv said that her plans include taking the women's world title from Lynch, and she hopes to do just that at King and Queen of the Ring. Damage Control hit the ring and attacked Lynch while Morgan bailed. Lyra Valkyria made the save, setting up the night's next match in the Queen of the Ring tournament. This was a mostly one-dimensional segment, but it at least laid the groundwork for the women who will oppose Lynch in the near future for the title. It also established the respect between Lynch and Valkyria, potentially setting them up to be associates and friends on the show. In the Queen of the Ring tournament, Lyra Valkyria and Dakota Kai continued the trend of quality in-ring action on Raw, with Kai having one of her best main roster matches to date. On her first night as a Raw superstar, Valkyria had plenty to prove and delivered that same resiliency that defined her time as WWE NXT Women's Champion. Valkyria delivered the Nightwing to secure the victory and set up a second-round match with Zoey Stark, and we wouldn't be surprised to see Lyra make it to the finals. After Finn Balor's defeat earlier in the night, Damian Priest was seen backstage consoling his ally and mentioned to JD McDonough that he needed to take care of Braun Strowman. Before he could react though, the injured Dominic Mysterio appeared with Carlito, who was drafted to Raw alongside the LWO despite separating from them. In a sign of WWE remembering its own history, Priest wanted nothing to do with Carlito, who returned at Backlash 2023 to help Bad Bunny win his street fight with the world champion. However, Carlito said it was the past, and while not seeking a Judgment Day spot, he insinuated that he wanted their help against the LWO. While not outright saying no, Priest rejected the idea of getting involved with Carlito, but like we said, it's a good bit of consistent storytelling that the world champion is against the idea. With that said, it's been a year since Backlash in Puerto Rico, and circumstances are vastly different as Carlito isn't the fan favorite fans saw last year in San Juan. His betrayal of the LWO will seemingly pour over into Raw, and we could be in store for the Judgment Day vs. LWO war, albeit without Rhea Ripley. In a backstage segment, Braun Strowman was seen reuniting with Ricochet before the new WWE Speed Champions King of the Ring first round match with Ilja Dragunov. Strowman cemented his position as a babyface and stated his contempt for bullies and wished Ricochet luck in his match with the Mad Dragon. It'll be interesting to see what's in store for Braun, who had a fun run with Ricochet, which stemmed from Strowman's dismissive comments about high flyers as flippy-floppy wrestlers. WWE made good out of that controversy and established Strowman as a babyface, something they will continue to do on Monday Night Raw, going by this show. As for the match between Dragunov and Ricochet, the two men held nothing back, with the Mad Dragon using intense strikes to cut off the speed of the inaugural WWE Speed Champion. Ricochet did fight back though, and at one point delivered an awe-inspiring Hurricane Rana to Dragunov off the top rope that sent the former NXT champion rolling to the floor. Ultimately though, it was Dragunov who got the win with a running forearm to flatten Ricochet, setting up Dragunov for a match with main event Jey Uso in the next round. If that doesn't indicate what Triple H and management see in the former NXT champion, nothing will, as this should be a great match with greater crowd heat thanks to Uso's involvement. After the loss, Ricochet apologized for losing again, despite this being his first televised singles loss of the year so far, and coming off a historic victory to be the first WWE Speed champion. Ricochet's only singles losses so far this year have come at live events, as he's been bested by JD McDonough and Jinder Mahal, and lost once to Drew McIntyre in a dark match. McDonough and Mahal both have only one win over him, while Ricochet has numerous wins over them, and it's more surprising that he hasn't lost a single televised match up until now. Either way, Ilja Dragunov showed his respect to Ricochet, whom he will likely meet again on Raw at some point in the future. In the Queen of the Ring tournament, Zoey Stark advanced to the next round with a win over Ivy Nile in a match between two incredibly gifted athletes, though they lacked in-ring chemistry. The two also showed inexperience at times, with spots that took too long to set up and an execution that wasn't always smooth, before Stark won with a Z360. This was probably the right call, but one cannot help but think that this would have been a stronger match if both women were more consistently featured on television. After getting his previous shot at the Intercontinental title ruined by Chad Gable, Bronson Reed was in a foul mood on Raw when he took on the leader of the Alpha Academy. As the action intensified, Sami Zayn hit the ring and attacked Gable, unleashing weeks of anger and rage on the man who beat him down in front of his family in Montreal a few weeks ago. This brawl ended, however, with Reed standing tall, after leaving both men lying in the ring, and backstage afterwards, Reed made clear he wants one thing: the Intercontinental title. When Sami Zayn was backstage, he said he couldn't let things continue this way, and declared that he'll defend the gold against Reed and Gable at WWE King and Queen of the Ring. This has all the potential to be a show stealer given the various talents of the three men involved, and with no champion's advantage and no disqualifications, Zayn's reign is in real jeopardy. Now, R-Truth has been one of the most entertaining acts on Raw for some time, and it was his antics with the Judgment Day that helped put Truth back in the spotlight last year. This storyline also enabled Truth to capture the World Tag Team Championships with The Miz, but in recent weeks, Truth has been more interested in who he believes to be DX. That is actually DIY, and on Raw, Truth's confusion reached a new level as he issued a challenge to the Yukon Huskies men's basketball team and asked Coach Dan Hurley to join him. In the segment with Adam Pearce, The Miz interrupted and said they couldn't fight the Huskies, but Truth believes Dan is part of a small wrestling organization called the NCAA. Miz then pointed out that the Huskies were a basketball team, but Truth said that a sport is a sport, as the easily confused superstar is ready to take on all comers. In a Queen of the Ring match, Io Sky and Natalya gave a strong match that highlighted both women, which actually benefited from interference from Dakota Kai and Kairi Sane. That interference wasn't too much though, and this was a mostly fair fight that saw Natalya hold her own before Kai's distraction cost her the win. After the match, Kai mentioned Becky Lynch potentially planting the seeds for a feud between the faction and the man throughout the summer months. On the March 30th episode of AEW Collision, Ricky Starks appeared to suffer an injury during the tag team title tournament match, which saw himself and Big Bill face Top Flight. At one point, Starks seemed unsteady and unable to escape a simple roll-up by Darius Martin, and a DDT ended the match abruptly, with Starks unable to kick out. Medical personnel swarmed Starks to ensure his safety, and while he's not been seen on AEW TV since then, he's not entirely vanished from the company. PW Insider reports that Starks was recently in Jacksonville, Florida for a checkup with AEW's medical team, and on Twitter, Starks claimed that he was not injured and never was. The former tag team champion explained his recent visit to Jacksonville as part of an annual physical, which everyone has to do, according to Starks himself. Starks has claimed he was never injured, but it remains to be seen when he'll next appear on AEW TV, and with Big Bill now aligned with Chris Jericho, where Starks fits in this dynamic. And we're ending with Cameron Grimes, who only recently emotionally shared that he had been released from WWE, but made clear that his career is not over. That's certainly the case, as this week, Elevation Pro Wrestling announced that Grimes, now working under his pre-WWE name Trevor Lee, will be part of their homecoming event. This show will take place on July 27th from North Carolina, and it remains to be seen what Trevor Lee does with his WWE career, a thing of the past.